Hello everybody, my name is Troublemaker, and this is not the Wargame Cup. In fact, this is actually a practice match between the blue player and pretty sexy machine is Komaromi, and his opponent, the winner of the Wargame Cup, Fiva55. And this is a practice match, so they will be pressuring each other fairly hard, looking to get the win, but the purpose of this match was a preparation for the Wargame Cup. And Komaromi is going to try and do a build and a style of play that Delta would use, or Delta might use. There might be some minor differences, but these guys would play like 200 matches against each other in preparation for this. All the while, Fiva is going to try different various layouts, workouts, see what really works for him, and basically, in order to win this tournament, the Wargame Cup, your build had to be successful in beating all sorts of stuff. So basically Delta almost always goes for a 2 or 3 base push. He uses a fair amount of infantry, a lot of flak panzers, and sometimes mixes in some Marrows, but very unit low is Delta. And so it looks like this scenario might be a much of an all-in for Komaromi, using basically the deck that we'll see from Delta, and really shows a nice variety of units here. All the while, looking at Fiva, this attempt looks like he's going to have a lot of helicopters, 4 helicopters, no recon helicopter, however. Lots of these Waysails, and here comes the all-important Bradley CFV, just the one. This is a 80-point investment. Now keep in mind, it's a very expensive unit. You can't lose this unit, but it does pay off very, very quickly. And you can kind of tell in the planning stages of things where this strategy is. At this point in their planning phase, Fiva wasn't particularly favoring a 1 base rush, but in this one, in fact, you can go for a 2 base. And this, we can see that he's actually going to be defending against a 1 base rush from Komaromi. So let's see how this goes. Now we do have a rush for the middle, and the middle in this map is very, very key. In fact, big part of Fiva55's big win was the fact that he's able to secure all of middle by making a major win and pushing back to 3rd, and that allowed him to get another command armor in and do some securing. So it looks like we're going to see a few infantry coming in the middle for Fiva, followed by a lot of infantry, and then there's this side flank, this very Fiva styled side flank that he's going to be doing over and over, and I have no doubt in my mind at all will become very popular on the ladder. All the while, the command armor for Komaromi looks like it's going to stay with the army for now. This is also something that you might see from Bent Guru. He loves traveling with his command armor, likes going to that big high point value. In fact, this could actually be might not be an anti-Delta match. It might actually be an anti-Komaromi or anti-Bent Guru match. Of course, a lot of these guys do play with each other. There's the nice cluster of helicopters here. The VAB is going to run straight into them, though. Doesn't look like they're going to do much, but it will pad just enough or a little bit. And just look how fast and readily easy he's able to deploy. Microing these VABs just like a boss. Needs to drop out. There we go. Chasseur number 1 and Chasseur number 2. There we go. Dropped on top. All the while, there's a small little battle happening here. Lots of VABs getting pushed off. And actually, all these chasseurs in the woods will get defeated by Komaromi. All the while, the main body of the army, the Machar VTS ones, the Challenger one, that's an interesting choice, Fiva. And lots of anti-infantry vehicles will be rushing forward. Gotta do that critical damage now, because this is the key point. Komaromi currently has the lead, however. You gotta remember, this is a practice match. It's very important for Fiva to fail. The more Fiva fails, the better he gets. The CFV, of course, has a tow currently off and is only using the infantry. Does not want to waste those very expensive rockets. It also does not want to have this unit picked off. And here comes 6 VABs from Komaromi. Going to rush those guys forward. Now keep in mind, Komaromi does play far more aggressively than Delta does. And this is basically what Fiva's preparing for. A rush. A rush composed of units that are only available in the deck of Delta. While we can see the command armor moving around the back here for Fiva, and he's going to do something weird and crazy. He's actually going to try and cancel at this point for Komaromi so that he doesn't gain any more points from this. All the while, Marshall VTS-1s are getting picked down, so are these M113s by these Fusiliers, and there needs to be a micro back here by Fiva. And you can tell the world of difference that has made with Fiva compared to when he's actually in the tournament finishing, because he would not have lost this battle not so convincingly. Komaromi does pave ahead. Now 30 points ahead. Now keep in mind though, it's not a total victory for Komaromi. When you go one base down, you need to have a crushing defeat. You need to have 200 or 300 points of difference. You're not going to be able to survive just on so few. And here comes a lot of blowpipe from Fiva. Ooh, getting hit by the Cobra and down. That means there's pretty much no anti-air here. There is one Lod blowpipe, however, just not really enough to deal with these Cobra attacks. And the command armor might just go down here. In fact, we're seeing a push by Komaromi to try and snipe this command armor, as it has canceled this 4-point pattern. Even if he moves it out into the open at this point, the AMX 30B Valeries with their insanely high range will in fact be able to take them down a peg or two. And the Lod blowpipes are just unable to get in position. The command armor is in fact destroyed. And Komaromi, huge lead over Fiva55, the champion of the Wargame Cup. It's always nice having a title like that. Now we see Fiva doing some Komaromi style, just small incidental pushes forward, picking off what he can, and then he'll pull back. And I call this Komaromi style. I'm sure other people do this, but Komaromi always does this. And you can tell a student of Komaromi because they always do little stuff like this. And a lot of these guys are getting really good because they're playing together. Now, of course, when these guys face each other, that's another story altogether. But in this tournament, in which they're more than willing to help each other, it looks like Komaromi is becoming a very big influence in the game. Martyr VTS1 charging forward into the Chasseurs. Ooh, huge miss micro here by Fiva. And he's going to lose a lot of these vehicles. And they're very hard to replace. Very low reinforcement rate. I believe you can only get like 8 total. So every time you lose one of these, that's just one you'll never have ever again. Most people who get the Martyr VTS1 use them basically for the early game. And at this point in the game, which we would call the mid game, they suck. They're only really great for pushes. So they're great at the end of the game and they're great at the beginning of the game. But right now they just really suck. And you can see a huge difference in playstyle. Komaromi is actually holding his Martyr VTS1s all the way in the back and just using them to pick off anything that's too close, but not really losing any. All the while we see a Challenger 1 going to move up here, still trying to pick off what it can, but these Martyr VTS1s are just going to be too good, too counter effective. And here comes the Bradley CFB Rocket Fire. Almost gets an AMX 30B Valeroos. Just an idea of the vision that Fiva has right now. Look at this. That's from the Bradley CFB. Isn't that amazing? All the while we see some Chasseurs going to rush out of the woods, and these are basically for padding right now. They're not intended to do damage. But looks like Fiva's not going to fall for it. In fact, does get a hit off on the Martyr VTS1, and Komaromi pulls him back. Komaromi, quite the smooth criminal in this game, and it's roughly even right now. The big advantage goes up to Komaromi, who is, kill the base. But they're both basically on one base right now. They both basically lost the exact same number of units. Komaromi can move this command right now. Keep in mind, there is some sneaky Chasseurs and a VAB in the woods here, and he's kind of expecting, because you got to think tactically right now. So, and this happens quite a bit, and it's actually, there's a good reason for it. So a player will grab a 4-point base with a command armor. Sometimes they'll grab 2 4-point bases with 2 command armors. And when they want to get units, they have to have a fallback point. Now, especially in Hell's Highway, there's only going to be 2 places you can fall back to. You can fall back all the way to Hotel and have the longest reinforcement point in the world, or you can fall back to Foxtrot. Now, if you see a person grabbing a base, like right here, you should preemptively rally infantry to the closest reinforcement point to it. And I mean, even when I see this isn't really enough. Ooh, it's a V150. That's kind of weird. Does the V150 actually see this? It does actually. That's interesting. But I digress. It's very smart to have infantry around here. Most people will not have the V150. It has really good optics, but people just don't like it. It's not cost effective. It'll be rare to see this. It'll be really, really rare, and especially on the ladder. So when the VAB pulls back, you should have some units available to attack it. Now this is going to act as a spotter as well, and Fiva will know that this is hitting as soon as it lights up. It might even be wise to have these cannons here repositioned right here. Just because even if you don't get the command kill, you're probably going to get a fairly good amount of infantry kills. And so here we go. Komaromi, place it just on the border so you can rally in some units. And this is a good placement because if any units are here, which he doesn't really know, but he knows the chasseurs are here, he can just move this away really quickly. Pretty much nobody is going to bring a vehicle down here. People want to use cheap infantry for this. So all the while, it looks like Komaromi's overextended a little bit with his VTS-1s, and suddenly it's kind of costing him the game a bit. He needs those key vehicles, and here comes some Valorous up forward. He's definitely... Whoa! Komaromi going with the Komaromi flank, and actually going to deploy a Huey as well. That's kind of interesting. This is a lot of Lynx tank destroyers, a lot of infantry, and basically, and this is not Komaromi's kind of style. This is something that Delta does, and he does it for a good reason. Delta does this because it's smart, it's effective, and it works. And what he's going to do is Delta is going to take a bunch of units down this path here, which nobody will know. He'll come all the way around the back, slide in around this very unscoutable area, and then you'll swoop in and try to go for a CV kill. CV standing for command vehicle. Now keep in mind, there is no command vehicle here, so this is actually not something that Delta would do. But Delta would do an attack like this. Delta is very much about going for these big attacks with the pure intent of killing off command errors. This should do a fair amount of damage, however. It just doesn't tactically make sense. That's the only downside to this. But it looks like he's going to try and go straight through the middle and hit right up on Bravo. Now keep in mind, this is when you're playing, there is no command armor here, and yet Fiva has some units here. It's for this specific kind of stuff. This is a very odd attack path. He's going through Charlie, right into Bravo, and going to try and go for a command armor kill. And you can see a huge advantage by going this flank. Not a lot of hedgerows in the way. All the important dangerous stuff's going to be pushed up front. All this artillery type stuff's going to be in the back. So Delta doing this stuff, very, very smart. And very hard to defend. That specifically is a huge threat. Speaking of, Valorous might be overextending itself, running out of ammunition, trying to get these Marshall VTS-1s, and the Bradley CFV is going to come in to try and support. Will the Valorous get away? That is the big question. And look, it's getting a lot of good shots off. These heavy tanks are just doing so well late in the tournament. Early on in the tournament, nobody was using these heavy tanks. They were too expensive. They died almost too easily, and there's just too much helicopter cheese. But later on in the tournament, these heavy tanks have done very, very well. And this is something that a lot of people have been practicing for. And a complete pullback here by Komaromi, as we're seeing M113106 MMRR. This is a nice little tank destroyer. They also work very well as a replacement for these AML Lynxes in opening pushes. And when you get to the end game, you want something like this. A nice tanky tank destroyer vehicle that'll deal a lot of damage. And looks like a lot of mud here for Komaromi as he tries to slip through the woods to create a nice little back flank. And he might be able to attack Von Schlief, and he gets the Bradley CFV. Now he's going after the Challenger. Challenger, of course, has been around pretty much the entire game. And, of course, Fiva will not want to lose this. The infantry will lead the charge. The infantry, of course, are going to soak damage so that these tank destroyers can do the damage. If any of these infantry do, in fact, get in range, they'll be dangerous. And we're going to see a huge split here. He's going to actually micro each of them to a very different direction. And AML Lynxes lead the charge, trying to go after that Roland 2 first. Of course, anytime you can get rid of a Roland 2, that is excellent. Here comes the AML Lynxes. All the while, we see an Apache helicopter coming from the rear. And none of these carriers actually have infantry in them. They'll just be fighting some autocannon damage. And the VAVs as well, doing roughly the same thing, just soaking damage. However, Komaromi, or Fiva's not going to fall for that. He's actually specifically targeting down the tank destroyers, realizing that they're the real threat. The Roland 2 could actually go down, and that would be a pretty critical loss. The Roland 2, of course, a very expensive unit, but also a very useful unit. You kind of need those things for dealing with helicopter all-ins. All the while, just insurmountable number of tank destroyers here for Fiva55, and he's going to be able to wipe out most of these units. Komaromi does have a strong lead, however, and if he can just get rid of a few more of these tank destroyers, he should be set for the game. Nothing getting rallied out currently for Fiva. He's going to win this battle entirely with these 6 tank destroyers. Sorry, 10 tank destroyers. And oh, we still have K20. The Lynx finally pulling back, but just a little bit too late. And now we see the Apache. And here comes a Lod Blowpipe on the move command. In desperation, the Apache will kite away, of course. And something that a skillful player can do. All the while, the Chasseur squad by Fiva55 is just being very obnoxious, but will eventually get tracked down and slaughtered by Chasseurs. We haven't seen any Fusiliers this time around. Usually we see Fusiliers in this matchup. NATO versus NATO, of course, very heavy on their tank destroyers because, well, let's be honest, NATO's kind of a tank faction. And it's doing insanely great damage here. Lots of great stuns, but really not destroying anything, unfortunately for him. Tank destroyers will continue to try and push forward, however, to at least buffer some of the damage for the Lod Blowpipes. All the while, the Chasseurs here for Fiva55 finally going down. Take 2 full Chasseur squad to remove them. And with that, we're going to see a little bit of a lull. Now keep in mind, both players are on 2-point bases. So the number of units they can dish out is going to be very limited. Komaromi is not going to want to move his commander up here, just because there's not really much security here. So that's something. There's gunfire somewhere. Hark, where are you, gunfire? But yeah, you know, this is not what we saw in the tournament. This is something that Delta would do, and that's a huge key because coming into the final game, you have to be prepared for a lot of things. You have to be prepared for his deck specifically, his unit types. You have to be able to counter them on the spot, because if you have no anti-air showing, he might go for a lot of these Gazelle 34 1F cannons. If you show a lot of tanks, he can go for some of these email linked tank destroyers. And really, Fiva got so far because he had a lot of team support going into this tournament, and it's something that shouldn't be underestimated. I've talked to probably about 5 people who said, like, oh yeah, I practice with Fiva. Like, you just say, like, hey man, practice. And that he did. In fact, everyone seems to take credit for his victories as well. So we're seeing some small skirmishes going on right now. Fiva is not in a great position just yet. 300 points behind, and he is in trouble. Needs to make good use of these tank destroyers. That's going to be something else. Going to use these Saracens to wipe out these Chasseurs, and here comes a Cobra as well to support. Mario 2, of course, still here. Gets 1 kill there. And what is he rallying out here? Looks like a lot of infantry personal vehicles. And here we go. A different sort of rush here from Fiva. Going to use these armored vehicles as a rush tool. He moved the commander up to try and take Echo, but fortunately there's some units here first. He's basically going to do what Komaromi just did. He's going to take the 4-point base, hold on to it, and then move back to Bravo and get points there. And as long as he can secure this front little part here, he should be fine. Here comes a Leopard 2A4, another heavy tank on the map. And with the superior range of these heavy tanks, they should be very effective against these tank destroyers. Should be able to do excellent damage. The battle for the 4-point base continues. It's actually amazing that he even has vision of this. If you can hear airplanes in the background, it's because I'm in the middle of a city, and there happens to be an airport in the middle of our city, and it's ridiculous. There's lots of petitions to get it removed. If you don't hear the helicopter or airplane, then that's clearly just a helicopter or airplanes in my head, and I am in fact crazy. Now, to comment on Komaromi's ability to play like Delta, I don't think Delta does stuff like this. I think this is stuff that Komaromi does. Komaromi loves using these very long-range vehicles, just pick apart as enemy. This is Komaromi does. He's very good at this. All the while, we're seeing a Bradley CFV recon coming out for Fiva55. And of course, this Bradley CFV is the game winner of most of this tournament for him. He won against Aluka, and that was a pretty brutal match for Aluka. And he won against Delta using this Bradley CFV. It's really great recon, really great rockets, and just does insurmountably high amounts of damage. Of course, an expensive vehicle. And it looks like Komaromi is going to go ahead and try and push into this woods location. Going to go ahead and wipe out all the vehicles here and secure this. And he's actually moved his commander back up into the 4-point base. So he's going to try and max out, double up his supply again, and do little cutesy moves like this to try and keep himself into this game. And not only into the game, but dominating. Because neither are really in a great position to actually get another commander. And this is a weakness of the Hell's Highway match. If you look at how it works out, you're basically always like neck and neck with each other. And at one point, when one player has less units, he can get overrun pretty quickly. So the Bradley CFV is in fact out, and will be used to snipe out some of these leopards. The leopard is going to pull back, seeing and fearing. Important that he fears the Bradley CFV. And this is not going to be a very secure location, at least not for long. This little tank, this recon tank, is just too good. And just small little picks by Fiva. Going to pick off a few vehicles in the woods here. The auto cannon fire from the Bradley CFV. And it's a lot of small moves. Like if you look at the weapons, he has turned off the Ito and kept on the Bushmaster. And he's very wise to do this. Basically, with these kind of vehicles, you only want to have them firing on vehicles that's worth using them on. That is these leopards. That is the VAB PCV. These VABs are not worth rocket fire at all. Sometimes you can get away with it with cheap vehicles, but with expensive ones, no. And like just such fast, great micro mechanics. In that second, he turned on the Ito, right-clicked on that tank, and killed it with the Bradley CFV. He will probably turn off the rockets again. I can't see him staying on for much longer. And this will very much have a huge effect on the amount of supply you're using. You'll be using less supply, and you'll need less supply trucks. Now, if you don't have the ability to quickly turn those rockets back on, keep in mind, raise my hand, I don't yet. It's one skill I've been working to shine up. It's not worth it. But Fiva55 is probably one of the better micro players in the tournament. Probably say top 3 in the game. And he's very good at just making sure that the right weapons are switched off. A lot of people have differing opinions on recon squads. Some people believe that they should always have their weapons off because you're using them for recon. Other people believe that you should keep them on because they can do some pretty insanely high damage. I mean, this guy has anti-tank grenades and concussive grenades, so he's going to do very good against pretty much everything with very few units. But you really need them for the recon, so it's a toss-up. I mean, for me, I turn off every single weapon. I only use them very, very last minute. To me, these guys are like sleepers. I use Spec Ops as basically sleeper agents and spies, and they'll spot for my helicopters and whatever cheese I choose to use for the day. These are very powerful units. So look how quick he is to turn off his guns, though. Only wants to keep on those grenades because they do the damage, and doesn't want to reveal the location of this rep. So he's going to keep it alive. And all the while, we see the tow is back on. Wants to so badly snipe the Valorous. The VAB PC going to get pulled back to Foxtrot again. He's gained just enough points, and he's going to try and rally out more units. Now, what does he rally out will be the question. Note a little bit of aggression here by Fiva. He's going to go ahead and push forward. And actually, if he turns on his toes, he can actually get the Valorous. He's going to pull back, though. He doesn't want to risk losing these CFVs. He has 2 open range, 2 of these Valorous. You actually just lose these very easily. They're not particularly armored well. You can see right here, not very good armor compared to a Valorous, which can take, quite a few hits, 3 armor. So he's playing very passively with these CFVs. He only wants to snipe things that are almost at max range for his vehicle, which is high range. And look at this. This is what basically Fiva did to Delta. He rallied at a second command armor, and put it at Echo. This is much more earlier in the game that he did this. And this is because Fiva did much better earlier in the game. And this is a very risky play for Komaromi, because now he's about 260 points behind on units, and he could potentially lose his lead. And this is a very risky play here on Hills Highway. You have to give props to Fiva when he did this in the tournament, because that was such an insanely risky play. Bringing out that extra command number, although brilliant, was risky. If he had not gotten 600, 700 point lead, he would have been in trouble. So you can see the Bradley CP is trying to pick off this V1F50, and this might make Komaromi think twice about placing his command armor here. And really, if he places it, he has no other place to put it. This is really the only place it can go right now. And so the Bradley CFE is going to move up and try and push this thing out. And of course, very quick response here by Komaromi, realizing this is a bad play. Going to move it. He can move it over to golf. There's nothing securing golf at the moment. And he can move it to hotel, but also nothing securing hotel. And you think like, well, you know, trouble, nothing securing, there's nothing there. And the important part is nothing that he knows about, but he doesn't have anything there to confirm that. So there's really not going to be a great place for this VAB PC. Kind of a wasted purchase, and all the while, Fiva is just moving up with his units. Here comes the command armor. Going to try and take this Echo base and get some extra points. 14 minutes left in the game, so this is a very late move. And what's Komaromi doing? Oh, he's actually going to go for Delta. That's interesting, because this is actually almost exactly what Delta did. Delta moved his command armor off the Delta, and this is actually what lost him the game. That's kind of weird and funny. Speaking of the Delta, 3 VAB is going to run through the middle here. Also something that Delta did. I'm scratching my head how well they read Delta here. And actually, this push is going to do a little bit better than Delta's. But still, it's going to get cleaned up pretty well the same. There is a Chasseurs in the woods here. The Fusiliers should be able to take it out relatively easy. The VAB PC can actually kill it itself, but that is a risky maneuver. Martyr VTS1 is going to come out. And yeah, looks like he's running out of ammunition on these Bradley CAVs. Oh, he has the tow out, that's why. We see a VAB going to move up, try and do something, but once again gets slaughtered. Everything so far has been roughly countered. Komaromi still with a 50-point lead, but with this stuff getting cleaned up, it'll be much closer at the 12-minute marker. Now keep in mind, Komaromi now has a 2 base advantage, which will kick in eventually because this is a 4-point base. I mean, there's a huge difference between winding up to take a 2-point base this late in the game, taking a 4-point base. Like, this will pay itself off after about 5 more minutes. He'll be at an advantage. So it is very risky, but it ends up being a wise choice. Martyr VTSI running forward, stabilization failure. These, of course, are not your high veterancy martyrs you used to seeing. These are low veterancy martyrs. And here comes a V150 as well to provide recon information. And okay, a little bit of an embarrassing situation. I accidentally, well, not accidentally, my game crashed. Oops. Bad bug. But this is roughly where it was, so we'll continue from here. And in the meantime, I thought about something we can talk about while we finish up this game, wrap up this game. So you're at this kind of situation here, where you're in Komaromi's position where you're about 70 points ahead. Not too bad. And you have what looks like a position that is unbeatable. Your opponent does not have much of an opportunity to offer a counterattack, and you are seemingly mounting a powerful defense. Do you attack and risk losing your points advantage, or do you defend and have a higher chance of winning? Now, of course, as I set up that way, it would seem obvious that you should sit back and relax. But this isn't a stationary game. This is a very aggressive, very tactical, very fast-paced game. Thinking on your feet, moving on your feet. So if Komaromi was just to sit back and wait out 10 minutes, he could lose. When you're down to the 5-minute marker, you might as well throw your command in the woods because the number of points you can get will not be worth it. But for this stage in the game, playing normal, playing tactically becomes very wise. I'm not going to talk ill of people who choose to sit back and wait because that works. It's worked. And whoa, this is not good. Clearly not looking at the clock is Fiva55, who buys another command armor very late in the game, and this is a great opportunity for Komaromi to actually just finish this. Put the nail into the metaphorical coffin, and the Bushmaster needs to turn back on here on these Bradley CFBs. Otherwise, Chaucer's going to go into the woods, clear these loud blowpipes, and secure this Echo base. So now we see there are 2 possible high point bases, and in fact, you can still move this VAB over to Echo and then back, but there's no point. 8 minutes left in the game. There just will not be enough points. In fact, this extra command armor by Fiva is kind of suspect. He might be not watching the clock and realizing that he's only got 7 minutes left. And with an extra command armor, creates extra risk as well. So slowly, a lot of these tank destroyers from Komaromi are going to creep through the woods. And of course, you're seeing a lot of fusion of styles in this tournament as people have kind of showcased their particular style. It's becoming more popular to hybrid these up to make something that is very, very effective. And the one thing this tournament did that was great was it was established a real permanent metagame that will have a lasting impact on the game until the next tournament. That is. So with 7 minutes left, we see Komaromi 150 points ahead. The onus, as they would say, is on Fiva to do something, but it looks like he's not really watching the clock, judging by his moves. Here comes the Bradley CFBs rushing forward to pick off anything they can. And just using this, or should I say abusing this to maximum effectiveness. Here comes the Martyr BTS-1s that will quickly pulls back these Bradley CFBs. He will lose all the WeSail MK20s he can. He will not lose one of these. Too valuable. And actually, Komaromi got the very late game AMX AUF-1. Of course, this is actually something that Delta did in the game himself. Delta pulled out the late game AUF-1 in order to completely snipe off command numbers by chance. And look at this. He's actually got this back location here. There was an attempt by Komaromi to actually pick it off, but it's been caught. Not particularly a great late game base. And obviously you can tell that Fiva has really put a lot of work in to beating these sorts of plays. While he's forced to retreat actually because, oh my god, that CFV has insanely high range. Very good unit. You can look at what Fiva's doing. Using these rep squads for purely for eyes creates a really great arc. He's obviously missing some weaknesses in this particular build. Like, he currently doesn't have any infantry in this woods here. He did previously, but none at the moment, which opens him up quite a bit to helicopter all-ins. And the AUF is actually, AF1 is actually going to move up closer to try and get a very close proximity shot. And here we go. He winds up, and he's going to fire on this hedgerow location. Well corrected shot. Did not hit a single thing though. And he'll just continue pounding this with artillery. It becomes very predictable where bad players keep their units, i.e. woods. It becomes harder to predict where a good player will have units. And good players generally spread their units out to avoid artillery just smashing them in the face. But of course, Komaromi, being a good player, knows where a good player would keep his units, and in fact targets that area immediately without any knowledge that there's anything there. I mean, that D150 is pretty good, but it only shows this little bit here, which is just basically the forces that are attacking. All the while, the Bradley CFB completely empty on these eye-toes now, trying to get some last-minute points, possibly realizing there's a 100-point difference here to bridge, and that he needs to make a pretty big move soon. He's going to need to make up 100 points. And given that there's 3 minutes left, it's probably not going to happen. WeSail MK20 is going to lead the charge. Oh, killed by an AML 90 Lynx. And the Bradley CFV is just not cutting it right now, not being as cost effective as it needs to be compared to the rest of the tournament. And Oh, come on, Komaromi. A chaparral fired and killed off 4 helicopters. And here comes Komaromi's army rushing in, wanting to clean up that gap once again. Lots of infantry going to get dropped on top. Martyr 1s as well as what these AML links is. And this is still a very, very close match despite that massive fool up by Komaromi. And 19 seconds left. One corrected fire shot could do it. The Leopard is not in range. 13 seconds left. He needs to get one shot off at something. One artillery shot. Anything. Anything at all. And looks like that will be the show. The Ophi does wind up, but it will not land in time. Ooh, close game. Close practice match between two very evenly matched opponents. And this is just a little bit of bonus content. I'll have more Wargame European Escalation next week on Friday. Friday will become my dedicated Wargame European Escalation. And by then, probably the third place match will be played between Aluka and YKKY. That's still a messed up name.